What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode. I'm SwipaCam. Welcome to the channel. Y'all hit the subscribe button. We are about 200 subscribers away from 7,000. At 10K, we're going to Serbia. Let's continue to build this community together, Swiping Gang. Y'all, I'm recording this episode on October 27, 2021, and we have to talk about the Denver Nuggets. We have to talk about Michael Porter Jr., and we have to talk about the Denver Nuggets bench. Now, if you ain't following me on Twitter, we are just under 3,000 followers on Twitter, so go ahead and give me a follow. If you need something, you want to talk to me, let me know. Hit me up on Twitter. But y'all, I'm trying to tell you, the talk has been loud and has been crazy. Right now, the Denver Nuggets are sitting at 2-2. Also, we got an update that Nikola Jokic only has a knee bruise. It's just a little sore, nothing serious. He could have came back and played last night, but Michael Malone and the Denver Nuggets staff wanted to keep him healthy. They kept him out of the second half, even though in 15 minutes of basketball, he had 24 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, and 8 of 9 shooting, 5 of 7 from the free throw line, and 3 of 3 from the three-point line, and he was on a tear. I'm talking about a 40-10-10 kind of game, but he is good. Nuggets, please breathe a sigh of relief. Now, we got to talk about Michael Porter Jr. Right now, everybody losing their mind about Michael Porter Jr. Everybody's wondering, where did the $207 million man go? Why isn't he shooting well? Why is he missing so many shots? Why is he struggling? Why does he seem to not be integrated into the offense? Why does he seem not to be able to focus on offense? Why is he standing in the corner? Why isn't he moving more? Again, these are good questions to ask, but my thing is community. Swiper gang, Swiper fam. Have we forgotten that last year when Jamal Murray went down, dude put up 23 points per game, about 7 rebounds a game on 54% from the field and like 40 to 50% from the three-point line. Well, 44% from throughout the year, but over 50% from the three-point line for like 20 plus games. Y'all, I get it. It's not pretty right now. It doesn't look great right now, but you all, let's do a little flashback, shall we? Because right now we got the MVP, Nikola Jokic. A lot of y'all might be some younger fans. A lot of y'all have been watching since the 90s like myself. Some of y'all have been watching since the 80s. Some of y'all been watching since the 70s. Some of y'all just started watching in the Jokic era. Y'all have to realize that Jokic, up until about 2 years ago, we couldn't get him to shoot the ball. There would be games where Jokic would take under 5 to 7 shots a game, all the way up until 2 years ago. During the 2019 season, it would happen sometimes, especially in the 2018 season. Jokic became the starter on December 15, 2016, and it took years to get him fully integrated into the offense mentally. Remember, he was a porous defender. He's gotten better. He's a plus defender. Right now, he's playing at an all-NBA level defense level right now. He's playing very well on defense throughout 4 games. But y'all got to remember, man, Jokic was really passive at first. His whole thing, he was a great facilitator. He was throwing the ball across the court, tip passes to Will Barton in the corner against the Magic. He was doing wraparounds. He was doing slingshots. He was doing all kind of stuff. But Jokic wasn't shooting. Remember, he had that 41-point game against the New York Knicks, and everybody was like, what? Where did this come from? But Jokic wasn't scoring. He wasn't a scorer like that. Jokic didn't average 20 points a game until 2 years ago. But again, a lot of that was just because mentally his efficiency was always there. You knew he could do it. We didn't know he could do it like this, but it was there. We never saw Jokic become a dominant scorer until the 2018-2019 NBA playoffs when he put up 25, 13, and 8. And everybody was like, yo, playoff Jokic is his thing. We didn't know it was there. That was his age 23 season. We had no idea that Jokic was that good. And again, I think all of us collectively, we all thought that Jokic was special. We knew that. But I can't say many of us knew he was MVP. I would say it took until about that 2018-2019 playoffs. I didn't see that kind of Jokic until about that point. I saw he was the best player in the playoffs with Kevin Durant going off with Golden State, with Kawhi Leonard going off with Toronto. He was right up there with the rest of them through 14 games. But the thing about Michael Porter Jr. is right now he's not shooting well. I get it. He's not shooting well across the board. Right now, Michael Porter Jr. is averaging 11.5 points per game. It's not good. We know it's not good. 11.5 points per game, 5 rebounds a game, 2.5 assists per game, which is higher than I thought it would be. He's 100% from the free throw line, which is great. 1.5 steals a game, which is ripping people. Only 0.3 blocks per game. He's shooting 43% effective field goal percentage right now. He's only shooting 32% from the three-point line. And he's shooting 35% from the field. Not great. His shot selection is way more dependent on the jump shot than it's been. So, y'all, I get it. But let me read some stats to you. What if I told you, right now, there was a first-team All-NBA player, one of the most prolific shooters of our generation ever, who right now, through 3 games, is shooting 36% from the field and shooting 8% from the three-point line through 3 games this year. There is an All-NBA, MVP, fringe MVP caliber player shooting 36% from the field, 8% from the three-point line, and he's one of the greatest shooters we've ever seen. And guess who that is? That's Damian Lillard. MPJ isn't shooting well right now, but neither is Damian Lillard. There were stretches last year where Steph Curry wasn't shooting well. When you're a shooter, you get in slumps. Y'all got to remember last year against Boston when he didn't hit a shot? He didn't hit a shot when we went away and played against Boston, and that's when Jokic went up there and had 43 points and was murdering them. Porter has gone through these kind of bouts before, but y'all have to understand that when you're a great shooter, you're going to go through pockets where you're just not shooting well. And right now, his confidence isn't there. At the end of the game yesterday, he didn't want the ball. And then on top of that, he's not fully integrated into the offense. So here's my thing. Michael Malone needs to do a better job of integrating Michael Porter Jr. into the offense. Facts. 1,000%. Absolutely true. Michael Porter Jr. is a potential $207 million player. He is at least $172 million player. Right now, we had expectations that he was going to average around 24.5 points per game this year, shooting 40% from 3, 50% from the field. All-star caliber player this year. But right now, it's not pretty. But y'all, Miles Bridges is averaging 30 points a game right now. Do you think that's going to continue with Charlotte through the rest of the year? No. When you start the season off, there are players that are outperforming expectation, and then there are players that are underperforming expectation. And right now, Miles Bridges outperforming expectations by a lot. And then you got Michael Porter Jr., Damian Lillard underperforming expectations by a lot. But you have to realize that when you're still year 3 in the league, he's only 23. Jamal Murray did the same thing. Jamal Murray was like this last year. He was a little bit better, obviously, than what Porter's doing right now. But Jamal Murray was about at this place last year after the bubble. Jamal Murray started off slow the year before. Remember, so again, 2 years ago, Jokic first team All-NBA. He comes into the 2019 season. This is the year of the bubble. Comes into the 2019 season. And that first month, he averaged like 16 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, and 5 assists a game. Now, Bam Adebayo did that the year before, or that year, and everybody was like, oh, bruh, Bam Adebayo is balling. But Nikola Jokic, when he does that, he's underperforming. It's like, this is what is he doing? Why is he coming out the gate so slow? Because that's how it was. Remember, he was out of shape. This is before he took that turn of training every single day after games and making sure his body was right, losing that weight before the bubble, all that other stuff. He was out of shape. He was 284 pounds coming into camp. He didn't look great. So what I'm stressing to you all is that right now, whether because of the vaccine protocols, because he's not vaccinated and because he's away from the players and he's not in the right mental space, whether it's because he's trying to get used to being integrated into a new year, he's trying to be unselfish. And this is the other thing. People have this idea with Porter that he's selfish, that he's lazy. That's just not true. Porter cares. He cares about his team. He cares about his play. He cares about the coaches. Porter is trying to play within the offense. But as of right now, he is not hitting his shots like he normally would. He's not getting enough shots often now. But also on top of that, Michael Malone and the Denver Nuggets team has to do a better job of getting him involved. Now, they started force-feeding him, like coming into the third quarter yesterday, or even the third quarter the game before against the Cavaliers, and he wasn't hitting the shots, but that's fine. But what you can't do is have him just standing on the wing. See, the difference is when Jamal Murray got his max deal, $170 million deal, 5 years. Everybody was questioning that outside of Denver because, like, well, is he worth that money? How do you know he's going to do it? Then the bubble happened. Then he averaged 21.5 points per game the next year. And then you were like, oh, bro, 50 points, 20, 21 to 25 from the field, 8 to 10 from the three-point line, and 20. I mean, it just went out outrageous, right? And then that all happened after he got his deal. And right now we're at this place where he got his deal, Michael Porter Jr. did, and we got to figure out, like, what's real? How long is this going to take? But, y'all, this is why you shouldn't worry. He is a historically great shooter. Remember, last year, 19 points per game, the second best effective field goal percentage in NBA history behind Wilt Chamberlain. Somebody averaging over 19 points per game. He has been a great scorer, great shooter his whole life. And you better believe that if his DNA has always been scoring and shot making. Right now, he's not playing great on offense. But, y'all, his defensive effort yesterday was great. Again, averaging 1.5 steals per game this right now through 4 games. He ripped Mike Conley, got fouled or got the ball stolen on the fast break or knocked out of his hands on the fast break, but he ripped Mike Conley. He was staying in front of guards yesterday. Michael Porter Jr. is making strides. It's just that offense is more loud than defense is in the NBA. So therefore, because his offensive output is so low right now, people are worried. But like defensively, he's been good. Now, he still has moments where he gets beat backside for being too focused on the ball. But yo, he's doing okay. Y'all, just do me a favor. Aaron Rodgers, RELAX. Just relax. Just take a breath. He's going to get it. It will come to him. Just give him time. It might happen in the Dallas Mavericks game. Remember what happened last year? And so again, reminders, you all. Last year when they played against the Utah Jazz without Jamal Murray, he had 31 points and banged out on Rudy Gobert. Last year against the Dallas Mavericks, he had 31 points, I want to say. Hit that corner shot to put him ahead permanently to end the game in Dallas. Just give him time. See, Porter was confident. Once he starts getting his confidence going, it's a wrap. Porter is like a snowball. Whenever you have a great scorer, when they get their confidence, it's not an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle when they're getting out of that streak. But once they get their confidence, it is a snowball straight down the scoring mountain. And he is going to set the world ablaze. It just takes time. So this is why I'm always preaching patience with young players. You have to give them time, especially when they've shown you previously that they have what it takes to be great. And Michael Porter Jr. has shown us he has what it takes to be great. Don't worry. I would not be surprised if the Dallas Mavericks game happens this weekend and Michael Porter Jr. puts up one of his patented 25 points per game, 25 points this game, 7 rebounds on 50% from the field and 43% from the three-point line, like 4-7 from the three-point line, something like that. It's going to happen. Everybody let him get some time, let him get integrated into the offense. Michael Malone realizes you have to make this change to get him going, and they're going to do it. I have no concerns whatsoever at all. So, now we got to talk about the Denver Nuggets bench. The Denver Nuggets have one of the worst 3 benches in basketball right now. The Denver Nuggets bench on the year, that full 5 lineup, is a minus 38 on the season. Yesterday, they got outscored by the Utah Jazz bench, I want to say 39-9. Jordan Clarkson had more than 10 points. Hassan Whiteside had more than 10 points. Joe Ingles had more than 10 points. And no one on the Denver Nuggets bench had more than 10 points. I know that a lot of people don't like when I have to say this about Facundo Campazzo and Austin Rivers. I realize that he is a great player internationally. He has some great moments. The problem is when you are building your team and building systems around your 8th and 9th best player on your team, you have run out of reasons why to have those players getting major minutes. And let me tell you why. The only players on the Denver Nuggets you need to be building around, they start with Nikola Jokic, the MVP. Next is Jamal Murray. And then with Jamal Murray as a 2B, it's Michael Porter Jr. Anything else is not meeting its purpose. Right now, Facundo Campazzo is hindering Jokic's success on the court because he's not shooting or playing defense well. Right now, Austin Rivers is hindering Jokic's success on the court because he is not shooting well and he's not playing defense. Facu was getting blown by, and when Facu gets horizontal with another player in the NBA because he's so small, it's automatically a bucket or a help defender is coming and it's a wide open three-pointer in the corner. When Facu is on backside defense because he's so small, he's not deterring the offensive player in the restricted area unless he's getting a charge, which he's not getting a lot of charges. Right now, Facundo Campazzo's had one good game this year. I want to say that was the Cleveland game, but it wasn't even like a great game. He was still a minus. I would love if the Denver Nuggets had coming off their bench someone like a Patty Mills, someone like a Lou Williams, someone like a Rajon Rondo. You need an actual point guard. So if they're going to start Monte Morris, which I've already shared with you, that I would put Monte Morris on the bench as the one to run the second unit. I would put PJ Dozier in and have him run a combo guard situation with Will Barton. I would put Monte Morris on the second unit because right now the second unit doesn't have a playmaker, doesn't have a distributor, and doesn't have somebody who can get to the rack and kick out and get other people set up because they're a scoring threat. Monte Morris is a scoring threat from three-pointer. Monte Morris is a scoring threat in the paint. Monte Morris is a scoring threat from the mid-range and pick-and-roll situations. Facundo Campazzo isn't a scoring threat on any level right now. He was hardly a scoring threat at times last year, and right now he is not a scoring threat at all. Paint, mid-range, definitely not mid-range, nor spot-up three-pointer. Austin Rivers is not a scoring threat at any level right now. Rudy Gobert is the best pick-and-roll big man in the NBA. Look up the numbers. Jokic was 3 last year. Rudy Gobert is 1. I want to say Anthony Davis or Bam Adebayo might have been 2. The idea that Austin Rivers thought, as the 9th to 10th man on the team, could take Rudy Gobert, all NBA player, defensive player of the year, thrice. Take him off the dribble, and what happened? He got his shot wrecked. I don't want that on my team anymore. I don't want that if I'm saying that on my team, if I'm Jokic, if I'm Murray, if I'm MPJ, because that takes away from our ability to be successful. Because what's happening right now is the Denver Nuggets are being down so bad that when the Denver Nuggets come out of the game, Jokic left them up 1 point when he goes out of the game in the first quarter. Against other teams, they're up 6 points. They're up 8 points. And when Jokic comes in the game after a 7-minute rest, he's down 8 points. He's down 11 points yesterday against the Utah Jazz. That is not only not the point in having a bench unit to give your starters or your MVP level players rest, but it's also a detriment to your starters and to your MVP player because now he has to work twice as hard to get the team back into the game instead of working to get the game up from a 0-0 or to build on a lead. The Utah Jazz have a bench to build on a lead. The Utah Jazz have a bench to get them back in the game. So when the Utah Jazz are down 1 when Jokic goes out, Ingles comes in, Clarkson comes in, Whiteside comes in, Pascal comes in. We're going to get that lead back and build on the lead. Because we know the Denver Nuggets bench is a liability. And that's what they are. They're a liability right now. Because Facundo Campazzo, Austin Rivers. See, here's the thing with Facu. If Facu had a rim runner, JaVale McGee, which again, Michael Malone doesn't really play those players, JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, something like that, Facu has a much better situation in Denver. Because he has a rim runner. He has somebody who can help him backside on defense when he gets beat. But he doesn't have that. If you're going to have, which I like the strategy, if your whole purpose on the bench is to say we're going to have nothing but a switchable bench because we got Monte Morris, PJ Dozier, Jeff Green, and JaMychal Green, and all those players can switch. All those players can switch, which is why they're a formidable defensive unit when they have the right lineup in. The whole strategy with them is that you want to do pick and pop. So when you do pick and roll, you can have JaMychal Green on the pick and roll. He's going to pop out or he's going to roll to the basket. And when the collapse happens, then you have Jeff Green or JaMychal Green spot out on the wing, who is typically 40% three-point shooters. Great strategy. But with Facu Campazzo and Austin Rivers, not a great strategy because they're too small and they're getting waxed on defense. Right now, I think they have an offensive rating as a 5-man unit that's in the 70s, and they have a defensive rating that's in 126. that is literally impossible. You can't play with that. You can't ask your starters to deal with that. You can't ask the MVP to deal with that. It's not feasible. It's not fair. And that has to change in the worst way. In the worst way. So we're going to have to take care of this. This is going to have to be something that's dealt with very quickly. There are certain things that the Denver Nuggets can do to remedy this. I truly believe that right now, what's going to have to happen is the Denver Nuggets are going to have to make some kind of a move. Not Austin Rivers, because you can't trade him right now, but I think Facu Campazzo is going to have to go to the bench and be a reserve player, or Austin Rivers is. Bones Highland needs to start playing. I mean rotational minutes, needs to start playing, because he's not a liability on defense thus far. He's by far the best scorer and creator and playmaker on the bench as a rookie. By far. They need to get a small forward, because PJ Dozier needs to play with his starters. That just needs to happen until Jamal Murray gets back. And even when PJ Dozier is back on the rotation, he needs to be playing the 2 to the 3. I would have something where I would much rather have Rajon Rondo, much rather have Lou Williams, much rather have one of those kind of players. If they had a Rajon Rondo with a Dwight Howard on this bench, that whole bench would be completely different. Because Jeff Green can play the 3. He absolutely can play the 3 off the bench in a bench unit. Or you can keep him at the 4. But if you had something where you had like a Rajon, you had a Lou Will, you had a Bones Highland, you had a Dwight Howard, you had somebody who was able to play on a wing, PJ Dozier, it makes way more sense to do that than to do what they're doing right now. So the bench needs an immediate change. I think the immediate change until you can make a trade is substituting Bones Highland in for Austin Rivers or Facundo Campazzo. I don't know how feasible it is to continue to play Facundo Campazzo. I think that, once again, if you're having to build around a reserve player, then that reserve player isn't meeting the role that is specified for a role player. So the Nuggets have some things they can do, changes they can make. The good thing is we're 4 games into the season. We're much better off than we started last year. Nikola Jokic is healthy. Michael Porter Jr. is going to figure it out. The bench will have changes made. Michael Malone has already addressed this. They're going to make changes to it. But right now, the biggest issue is the bench. Michael Porter Jr. is going to figure it out. But you can't ask your starters to get up 6, to get up 8, and then come back in the game down 8, down 11, down 14 points, like they did against the Phoenix Suns. And then ask them to build the lead back up. And then at the end of every starter iteration, when they're getting out in the second quarter, or they're getting out at the end of the third and going into the fourth, you can't ask them to do that. So they need to implement something like a LeBron James stagger strategy. When LeBron James goes out at like 5 minutes, he comes back in with a minute left and Anthony Davis goes out. So literally they'll play the first quarter. LeBron will go out 6 or 5 minutes into the game. Anthony Davis will finish out that rest of that first quarter. And then Anthony will go out. LeBron will come back in with that last minute and play through the beginning of the second quarter. And eventually Anthony Davis will come back in. And then they'll do another substitution where Anthony Davis comes out. And then they will finish the rest of that second quarter with LeBron and AD. That is a way more feasible option. And right now, when you have Michael Porter Jr. that needs to stagger with the first unit, you can take Yoke out with a minute left if you want. Take Michael Porter Jr. out at 5 minutes. Take Yoke out, bring Michael Porter Jr. in. Let him play from the minute left all the way through maybe 9 minutes left. Let Yoke come back in at 7:50. Let Michael Porter Jr. come back in at about 4:50. Something like that. That needs to be your strategy. Let him come back in about 6 minutes. That needs to be your strategy. Because right now the bench can't do it by themselves. Will Barton can do it as well, who's playing very well right now. Second best player on the team. Anyway, y'all, that's going to do it for today. I have a special episode coming out with another analyst, just like we had Brian Blackburn on. I got another surprise analyst we're going to do another episode with this week. And then we got the game on Friday against the Dallas Mavericks. You all, hey, we're going to see you soon. Swipe a gang.